Hi, Maria. Thank you for joining for our quality sessions.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Just as a way of introduction, Maria has actually just been promoted to the role of quality manager at Ellis Don, and she's currently working on the Burnaby Hospital project. She was previously working on the Royal Columbia Hospital project. Um, can you share with us, just kind of give us an overview of what your role is? What does a quality manager do, or what did you do in your previous role? What are some of the specific activities and responsibilities that you have?
Yeah, for sure. The one thing, so I'm fairly new in the quality role. I started about a year and a half ago on the quality side of things. I was more on the PM side of things. So the one thing I'm seeing now that I really enjoy is the fact that quality touches everything in the project, like from document control to RFIs, how they are written, shop drawings, how they are written, how they're submitted, even just filing systems, emails. We touch on every single part of the project. So we are always in constant communication with the coordinators, the project managers on the office side of things. And obviously the main bulk of my day-to-day is interacting with the trade contractors on site, their quality teams and the superintendents and the project managers and their coordinators, and trying to find a way of how we can all manage and deal with quality on a daily basis. One of our main things here is we obviously have a pre-construction meeting where we discuss everything that has to do on site, but then follow to that pre-construction meeting, we have a pre-construction meeting that is focused only on quality. And prior to that, we request trade contractors to submit their quality plans, their checklists, their inspection testing plans, every single document that they plan on using while they are working on this project. And then once we get all of their documents, we review against specifications and contracts and any project requirements, specific project requirements. And then we bring them in and we sit with them, and then we find a plan that works for them and us as well. We are always telling them that our hope and our aim is not to give them any extra work, but actually the opposite, that if we do things right the first time, we'll try to avoid any extra work and extra costs. So it will benefit them, benefit us. And I'm always trying to have a presence on site so that any questions that are coming up on site, they kind of get resolved right away, as opposed to waiting for all these paper trails or these emails that never go anywhere. And then people on site get a bit frustrated and they solve issues on site because they never hear anything back. So I'm always walking around on site trying to either get the information, or if I point out something that's not like looking right with the drawings or whatever, I point it out to the superintendents or the PMs or coordinators, just more of a try to be a communication link between the site and all of the teams. And obviously daily checks on work that's being performed. We have a platform that's called FieldWire. And then we create in FieldWire all of the quality tasks. Right now we are full on framing on one of the main floors. And so we're creating these tasks per room that it's, we call it the red light, green light kind of thing. And so whatever trade contractor is going into this room, they open this task, they see, okay, framing's been done, boarding's been done, conduits have been completed. So everybody knows right away if they can complete their work on site. But there's always a million questions from the from the site people. So I'm always there trying to answer those questions.
And are the questions typically quality questions, or do you find they're more scope of work or other issues?
I think it's a combination of everything. Sometimes it's like, oh, there's no site instruction, and I was told there's a site instruction. And in FieldWire, we also have all of the files saved with that site instructions. We have RFIs, we have shop drawings, we have the drawings, and then drawings get updated on a weekly basis because this is a design build project. So we don't have IFC drawings yet. We're building still with our 70% design development drawings coming into the 90%. So obviously the design is not 100% finalized. So weekly updates are super important. But yes, questions, constructability questions, or document control questions or quality questions. There's always questions, but it's good to be that face on site that people see me, they're like, oh, can you this and that, and so it's nice to just be there and try, or be the link to try and find the information that they need.
And then I think further to that, you talked a lot about the sub-trades, and it sounds like you have a pretty robust system that they need to sort of fit into. And I know you've talked about how you sort of sell the system to them as being more cost effective and beneficial to them. How do you find the trades have been with this? Are they receptive to this? Do you tend to get the paperwork you're looking for?
I think the reason why we approach it the way we do is to get their buy-in. So at the beginning, like I mentioned at the beginning of the project, they submit their own quality plan and they send us their own checklists and their own ITPs, inspection testing plan. And we use those checklists and we include, like I upload those checklists into FieldWire. And so they are using their own stuff. So when they come back and say, oh, this is too long of a checklist or whatever, I'm like, well, it came from your team. Like, this is from your side of things. So maybe you go back to your own team and tell them to make it a little smaller, a little thinner or whatever. And they're like, oh, yeah, I understand. So it's not something we're mandating and like you have to use these 100-item checklist and whatnot. And it's more like their own. And then also this app is super easy to use on your phone. So they open the task and then we request for them to include photos and include documents and include signature. And sometimes some trade contractors are more tech savvy than others. So some need a little more hand holding. But for the most part, they're very, very willing to just comply and follow. Mm-hmm.
You have a similar set of requirements for all trades, like mechanical, electrical, structural, drywall, or is there sort of a different expectation with different risk levels?
It's a little bit different, yes. For example, for the structure, we have tasks for every single element that we're pouring. So every column has a task, every slab has a task, every stairwell, every core, everything has a task. For, let's say, the mechanical and the electrical is a little more general because we would end up with a million tasks if we were going to do one task per conduit. That would be just unmanageable. So it's more of a general concept until we get to finishes. Once we get to finishes, every room will have its own task. And then within the task, every trade contractor will have their own task with their own forms, which will be a little more detailed. But yes, it depends on the scope. Like, let's say right now we're also doing level 7, level 8 of structural steel, and they work by sections. So every section has its own task. And to avoid confusion, I have uploaded their own shop drawings and bubbled and labeled their own section within their shop drawings so that they are very familiar with what they're looking on FieldWire. And they're like, yeah, this is a section, this is what we've done. And they open the task and they complete the task. So yeah, every trade contractor is a little bit different.
It's interesting. You use the word task. I know task can mean different things. Often in schedule, we have each WBS code has sort of a task associated with it. Is that the kind of task you're talking about, or is there a different thing you're talking about when we talk about a field wire or quality task?
No, it's a little bit different. So the task is more, if you were going to open a drawing in FieldWire, you would see a bunch of little bubbles, and those bubbles are called tasks. And then you open the bubble, and then within the bubble, you can have also, let's say you have a room number, Then within that task that's being assigned to that room number, you have several tasks for each one of the trade contractors. But within that task, you have their own forms that they would just check, add photos and then signature and whatnot. So yeah, it's a little bit different. It's just, I guess, the label they gave them in FieldWire.
Interesting. So really it's the inspection testing plan gets converted into these tasks.
Yes, yes.
Visual manner, which makes a lot of sense, and you can see it in the field on your iPad. And then presumably when you have a consultant that needs to do a check, would they get an alert that they need to do their check of this task?
So the consultants do not do their tasks in FieldWire, but we receive the consultant reports on email or PDF. And then I export any deficiencies or any incomplete work items from their report, and I create tasks in FieldWire under the deficiency. So it would have a different label, different tag that would be deficiencies or incomplete work, and I would task them to the trade contractors for them to complete. So we have several different areas in FieldWire. One is the quality control, which is tasks that are like your daily checks that work is being done as per contract, per drawings, per specs. And then the other side of thing is the deficiencies, which is just tasks that are labeled deficiencies and pinned on deficiencies. And then the good thing about these tasks is that you open it. Oh, also the deficiencies are tagged to separate set of drawings. We have like quality set of drawings with the pins in it, and then a deficiency set of drawings with all the pins in it. And then when you open the drawing, because the tasks turn green when they're completed and red when they're still open, so you can clearly see if your drawing is completely red, you have a bunch of deficiencies that have not been closed, or if it's green. And then once it's green, trade contractor turns it green when it's completed, then our field team go in there and verify that the work is actually being done as what the contractor is saying it was done. And then you verify it and they turn blue, and eventually you can set it up, but eventually they disappear from your drawing. You can set it up to be gone in a month, 2 months. Some people can want to keep them forever, but it's best to just keep your drawing clean, and when they're verified and closed, and they can just disappear. You can bring them back anytime.
Dawn is it's a very professional contractor. You're working in a hospital. Hospital has really stringent requirements that you're having to meet, right? The owners have high expectations for quality. I'm curious about the team that you dedicate to it. I know you're obviously full-time in the quality role. Are there other people that are full-time in the role on the project? Or is it more just that quality gets tasked into various, a role and responsibility within another job, and then you interact or intersect with them?
So the main quality plan is managed by myself with FieldWire as a tool. But I do, and then on the quality department, it's just me. And then I have Paul, who is a senior quality manager, and he oversees RCH and Burnaby, so both projects. But here on site, I'm like the hands-on only person for quality. But in my role, I have a percentage of, let's say, checks that I manually or like physically do on site. The rest are done by the field engineers or the superintendents or the coordinators. So it's a little bit like in other companies, it's a little bit of, yes, we do have a quality department, but quality is everybody and everybody's responsibility. So I do get a lot of support on site, especially because there is a lot to be checked. And it's only gonna get busier and busier as we start with finishes and whatnot. Because like you say, with the hospital, once we get into all the equipment, and it's gonna be long lists of things that need to be checked, and hopefully not too many deficiencies, but we know deficiencies can be long lists as well. So they are thinking of possibly, we also get co-op students, but possibly getting a coordinator for the quality department as we get into finishes. Mm-hmm.
And then in terms of, I mean, you talk about the schedule, and obviously we know that as you move further along, there's still a lot of early checks on structure and things like this that are very fundamental. But of course, you get to finishes, you get into equipment, you get into all, I'd say, these sort of patient interacting pieces, right? It does ramp up. What are the activities that you do early on the project to sort of maybe prevent things from going wrong? I know some things we've talked about are sort of mock-ups. I know you've talked about this pre-construction meetings, some testing plans. Are there other things you do early on, sort of in the planning stage, especially with the design build, that you find are really effective for making sure that you reduce the amount of work kind of at the end of the project?
Yes, absolutely. We have, so we did complete a full-on mock-up about 6 months ago. We rented a storage unit outside of the project, and we completed about 6 rooms full on mock-up, and it was mainly the operating rooms and the patient rooms and all of that. And every single piece of equipment was built out of, I guess, cardboard, which was, I don't know, my background is in architecture, so I was like super stoked by it. But everything was like live, and then the users came and started giving us feedback. We want these outlets here, not here. They started moving like the operating rooms, is how much space is there gonna be. Walls got moved, ceilings got moved. A lot of changes happened within that. It was a period of 3 months that all of the users were able to go and visit. So obviously that is or will avoid a lot of changes on site. And when the users actually get in the space, they're like, oh, actually, we don't want these, we don't want that. And then real changes are happening, and that gets expensive and costs delays. And we wanted to avoid that. So a full construction mock-up was completed, and the owners were super happy, and that aided as well with the design process, because it was consultants involved, everyone involved, to try and just improve the space as much as possible. We've also done a few planned visits. We just did thermal systems visit. We went to Calgary, and then we visited their plant. We went through their process. They are doing our exterior panels, which will include the window, the cladding, everything is just one piece, and the whole panel is going to come and get installed as a unit. But we wanted to make sure that testing is being completed, that the windows are being installed as what's required by the contract and PA. The PA is a contract. And then many mock-ups as well. A lot of our mock-ups are like just part of the actual installation. The consultants come in, they review the wall mock-ups, like we have a long list of mock-ups that we completed and that we still have to complete. But the plan visits I found really helpful, because you get the consultants, you get the trade contractors, you get even the owners there to say if they like the product, if they don't like it, and just be a little more proactive on avoiding any issues in the future.
That's great. And then, of course, Elliston builds a lot of hospitals. How do you find you get the information from one project and bring it into another? And I sort of when you talked about the operating room mock-up, it made me think about it, because obviously you've built operating rooms at several other hospitals, and I assume there's some input from that. But if they're still moving things in the mock-up, clearly they haven't quite got to that point. Is it just different user groups? But really the question is around, how do you take the knowledge from one project and transfer that to another one in the quality world?
So when I started with RCH on the first couple of months, we went and visited the Kamloops Hospital, which we just finished. And the whole team, I don't know, it was 50 people or so, the whole team went up there and we walked the entire hospital room by room by room. And then we asked as many questions as we could, and then we just came up with different options for our own, because RCH was just developing as well. It's also a design build. So the consultants were there. Everyone that had any sort of questions came up to that site visit, and it was super, super helpful. But also they had a lessons learned log that is a mile long. That was shared with RCH, and then RCH has developed their own lessons learned as well, which is now turned to the Burnaby Hospital. And so we have all of these lessons learned, and now we're creating our own, so that in the future, any other hospital that comes along, we'll be able to share our lessons learned as well. But yes, the differences within each space just comes with each user. But funny enough, or not funny, but FHA is our owner side as well as RCH. So sometimes in the meetings from Burnaby, they're like, well, at RCH, they're doing these, or at RCH, da, da, da. Or they say, oh, you're doing better than RCH. So it's always being compared, because it's the same teams on FHA talking from one side to the other side. But it's I find that it's actually a benefit, because we are learning and taking the experiences from both sides to avoid any issues, or to just prevent any kind of things going wrong. And also, I think both teams are kind of growing together on the FHA side and on the Elizon side as we go along. So it's pretty good.
And then I just have one last question.
Okay.
I know in a number of these sessions, I think some people have said, yeah, I'm 100% on board with ISO 9001, definitely use it as the base for our quality management system. Other people have said, I know what it is, do some of it, but don't pay that close attention to it. I'm curious, is the system or the plan that you're using on your project an ISO 9001 based plan, or have you moved away from that?
It touches some items of it, but I think our plan is 100% LS-DAWN focused and developed plan. It's always obviously being improved, and like when we submitted our quality management plan to FHA, from day one we told them this is a live document. It's never going to be, here you go, this is what's going to happen. No, it's a process. So the commitment with FHA's quarterly resubmissions, we change, we develop, we improve. Maybe we thought we were going to do this way, but now we've seen it's better the other way. So we're changing. So it has a little bit of it, but it's mainly our own way of doing things.
That's helpful. Thank you very much, Maria. I really appreciate you sharing your thoughts with us.
No worries. Thank you so much for having me.